So, yep. Um, Hello, welcome to this presentation. Today, um, before we begin presenting each individual policy, I want to establish the structure of our security framework as a whole. Our team is presenting three interlocking policies: access control, backup recovery, and data classification. These are not isolated documents. They function together as a unified operational architecture design to protect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the organization's information assets. Access control defines who is permitted to interact with systems. Backup and recovery ensures that critical data remains recoverable under failure conditions. And data classification assigns the required protection level based on sensitivity, which here is what we are going to go through as aforementioned. And starting with policy one, which um, Maher is going to explain to us more about that.
Um, Hello everyone. My name is Mahir, and policy one is about access control policy. And the purpose and scope of policy one is that the policy was created for healthcare org vitas to protect protected health information with the objectives of following the principles of the least privilege and role-based access control. The objective of this policy is that employees will have only the minimum level of access required to perform their job duties, and the policy covers all healthcare org vitas, office locations, departments, and employees, which includes IT, billing, administration, and contractors. Essentially, all individuals who are accessing healthcare org vita systems and or handling sensitive information. And the highlights of this policy are that all users must request access to the system prior to being able to log in. The type of access a user receives is determined by his or her job role or job function, and it's not discretionary. Admin accounts are strictly limited, as are those accounts that have system level access, and these accounts will also be reviewed on an ongoing basis. When an employee's job status is changed, such as when he or she leaves the organization, their access to the system will be removed. For added security, all access to our most secure applications will require multi-factor authentication, and regular audits will be conducted to ensure compliance with HIPAA and PCI/DSS standards. Some definitions and regulations in this policy. Access control refers to the process of either granting or denying access to data. And least privilege is the concept of limiting what an individual can do as part of their role by limiting access and or capabilities. And multi-factor authentication is the use of two or more methods to verify the identity of an individual. This access control policy is aligned with actual regulatory compliance requirements and guidelines, including the HIPAA security rule, which establishes federal standards for protecting electronic protected health information. And the payment card industry data security standard, or PCI DSS, provides standards for payment and card industry security. An NIST special publication 800-53 is a comprehensive document that outlines a set of guidelines for securing computer systems. The reason that an access control policy is needed to protect the organization, its employees and its patients, is that it establishes what controls need to be put into place in order to limit who has access to what level of sensitive information and to prevent data breach, unauthorized access, and compliance violation through the use of multi-factor authentication, regular audits, and strict approval processes. In addition to reducing the risks of data breach and unauthorized access, the access control policy will help us achieve our mission of protecting patient information, increasing public trust in the organization, and complying with HIPAA, PCI, DSS, and other national security standards. Overall, the creation of a controlled access environment will allow employees to work securely and responsibly. And next up, I'll be passing on to Jason. Are you doing policy two? Okay, I'll be passing to Jason for policy two. Change
Yes,
management policy and backup recovery policy.
yes. And as Maher would, have mentioned about backup and recovery, now is the time to moving on to the change in management policy and backup recovery policy, especially for EPHI. under any system disruption. And today, I'll present the backup and recovery policy for healthcare org Vitas. This policy established a unified organization-wide framework that ensures the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of all electronic protected health information and other mission critical systems. It defines how we meet our recovery time projective and a recovery point objective, and it applies without exception to all operating units, data centers, and any department handling EPHI. This policy is not optional. It is a baseline standard required to maintain operational resilience. This policy mandates strict technical and procedural controls. We perform both system level and user level backups aligned directly with our RTO and RPO targets. The backup scope includes OS level components, application datasets, configuration states, and all relevant security documentation. All backup media must be encrypted and end-to-end in transit at the rest, and the deletion and destruction of backup data requires dual authorization to eliminate single point abuse. Backup storage is restricted to geographically separated, fire-rated, and access-controlled facilities, and retention schedules are enforced according to legal and organizational mandates. Additionally, we conduct quarterly integrity testing and validation to ensure that every backup is verifiably recoverable, and all results are logged and reported to the Information Security Office. Recovery operations follow requirements defined under NIST SP 800-53 Controls CP Section 10. Restoration procedures must be documented, validated, and executed only under authorized supervision. This policy is aligned fully with the HIPAA security rule, especially from the required data backup plan under Section 164.30A, Section 8.7, Title 2, Section A, as well as the NIST Control CP-9 and CP-10 governing system backup and recovery. In short, this policy guarantees that EPHI remains insecure, recoverable, and compliant. And it ensures that the organization can continue operations effectively under any adverse event. This is the standard our company is trying to enforce to protect both our infrastructure and our regulatory posture. And this is Jason, and we will, after Mahir, we will handing up to Reina and talking about the classification of the data management.
Okay, hi, my name is Reina. I was tasked with working on policy 3, which was the data classification. And an excerpt from the policy statement states, this policy ensures all organizational data, including PHI, PII, EPHI, and proprietary information is classified, protected, and managed securely across its life cycle. All workforce members and partners must follow approved methods for data processing, storage, and sharing. We covered our stakeholders, which was senior management, information security office, privacy leaders, security, governance, risk, and compliance, data owners, creators, data users, and custodians. The scope of policy 3 was the sites were all offices, hospitals, clinics, outpatient centers, whereas departments were clinical operations, IT admin, billing, and compliance. The people were employees, contractors, interns, volunteers, and third-party vendors. Moving on to more about policy 3, I identified the policy controls, which were data classification, which classifies all data before use. Data owners assign and review classifications. The second was access control, access granted via documented procedures, changes approved through management processes. And then finally, monitoring and auditing. These are routine monitoring of data access and use, as well as violations result in disciplinary action up to termination.
Any questions for our customers feel free to reach out to us. And from our policies, references, and laws and regulations, they all can be referenced through the accordingly papers that we have provided to this very assignment. And as a whole, these three policies form a complete and interdependent security posture. Access control regulates who may access information. Data classification dictates how that information must be protected, and backup and recovery guarantees that even in the worst case scenario, critical data remains intact, recoverable, and compliant. Together, they secure the organization's information lifecycle to end and establish the standard of resilience required to protect both operational integrity and regulatory obligations. And thank you for watching. Thank you for showing up in the presentation. And this is the end of today's